Hello and how's it going? I'm Goose. Welcome back to the Clips channel. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about some food, and we're going to do a little bit more of Is It Rage Bait? That's right, Is It Rage Bait? That is the game that we've been playing the last couple of times, and I've had so much fun talking about cooking videos that I think we're going to keep doing it. I think we're going to keep doing that. So dive with me into the abyss of okay to bad cooking advice, and let's try to determine today, is it rage bait? I think it might be. Let's find out. If you think that any of this is informative or entertaining, then please do me the huge favor of liking and subscribing. That is the best way that you can help this tiny little channel grow into a big old Papa channel. And you want to do that, don't you? You want this to be a Papa channel? We can be a Papa channel. Let's get into other videos. All right, so first off, it looks like what we're going to be watching is a series of hacks that chefs actually use. And I think some of this may get nitpicky, but I think that probably the majority of these are going to be good pieces of advice. I don't know, I haven't watched it myself. Let's get into it. The part that you saw there is that they were announcing the years of experience they have combined, which I only want to point that out because it doesn't really matter how experienced you are. You can be a chef of 40 years and still be really bad at making food. It's just you've gotten encouraged over that amount of time, and people who didn't know better showed you the respect that made you believe that you were an authority on something. It's like how people get into the auditions at American Idol without ever having learned how to sing. It's the same kind of thing. Someone just like carries you along the whole way. It's a thing that happens a lot in the cooking industry.
Here are the 75 hacks chefs actually use. Don't just hate it when your bowl's going all over the place when you're trying to make a mayonnaise. Quick fix, take a cloth over a pan and then your bowl won't move anywhere. Perfect consistency, no spills.
Well, that has nothing to do with the sauce, but just use a towel. Just curl a towel into a little circle, like wind it up like you're about to snap somebody with it, and then just curl it into a little circle. Don't worry about using a bowl. A lot of the times when chefs cook up, or I almost made a pun for no reason other than I like to do that. Sorry, dad joke. I'll say it anyway. Chefs often like to cook up hacks that really don't make a lot of sense and end up being inefficient in the long run. If you're going and grabbing a whole other dish, to explain this as succinctly as possible, chefs really believe that economy of movement is one of the most important things that you can achieve as a chef. Doing as many things as possible with as little steps as possible is the ultimate efficiency. And so if you can cut seconds off of your prep time, if you can cut seconds off of your service, like your fire time, things like that, you're doing better than everybody else around you. So it behooves a good cook to be able to cut as many steps out of the process as possible. And that includes coming up sometimes with hacks that might allow you to safely and reasonably cut relevant corners that allow you to still provide high quality stuff while saving time and effort. Sometimes chefs miss the mark, and sometimes they overshoot, and this is one of those cases where you're recommending that someone go and grab another dish that's going to need to potentially be cleaned because you've got your grubby little mitts all over it, and use that as a stabilizing measure for a bowl that you're whisking something in. Presumably you have a side towel right next to you, and presumably you can just whip that thing out and turn it into a little bowl holder. It's very easy. It saves a lot of time and removes having to go and find a suitable vessel for that bowl. I would say that's a bad piece of advice.
Where the mince is so sticky, the hack is if you take a container of water and just dip your hands in the water before you touch the mince.
I would say that's another bad piece of advice. Again, you're incorporating a step that doesn't need to be incorporated. If you have clean, dry hands, yeah, it may stick to you a little bit more, but you use your hands to get the schmutz off. It's really like, or you wear gloves. I mean, gloves, I see this like modern pushback against wearing gloves these days, and I don't know when the polls flipped on that. Gloves have always been an essential part of PPE and essential barrier to keep people from getting sick from food. I think that the rules that govern gloves need to probably be, explained to people all over again because perhaps they forget why they exist in the first place, but really they're supposed to serve as a barrier between things, between whatever you're handling in your hands, and really that's supposed to be for the customer's benefit so that you don't transfer whatever beasties might be lurking on your skin onto whatever it is you're working with. But they are barriers and they are disposable. You're supposed to be throwing them away. They are not supposed to take the place of hand washing. If people are doing that and you notice that, don't discontinue the use of gloves. That's moving in the opposite direction. Just use gloves for the tacky stuff as well as hygienic stuff, and you don't have to worry about getting an additional container of water and another dish that's going to have to be cleaned. That wastes resources and it wastes time. Bad advice.
People use the wrong salt and the wrong technique. Most people season with flaky salt. However, laying a bed
That's
of
what I
fine
would
salt
use.
and placing your steak
Fine salt.
directly into it and doing the same on the other side gives you a perfect seasoning crust. I'm going to cook.
Just to interject right off the bat, no, fine salt is not necessarily better than flaky salt. Flaky salt is usually kosher salt, which is made from seawater. It's better in quality in that it doesn't have to be mined up from a mine. It makes a huge difference when you're able to purify that. The whole thing is meant to just not be like this fine coating of salt on a steak. That's not what you want in the cooking world. I guess we'll see where he's going with that, but also like that, I just needed to mention that there are differences between kosher and mined salt, and that they do have a taste difference, and that only when looking at that should we say that one is better than the other. They just have their different uses.
These two up and show you the difference. As you can see, with the fine layer of salt, it's made a more even.
Well, I know what he's about to say. He just kind of started to say it. It makes a more even layer of crust, and I'm just going to say right now that that's not what I want as a chef. I want inconsistency. Things that are artistic are good not because they look like everything else. It's like how my philosophy on movies, you know, like the best kind of new modern movies are not going to be from the people that want to do the same shit that Coppola did, or do the same shit that Spielberg does, or do the same shit that Guns do the same shit that, like, you know, any insert director name here is doing. It's going to be the people that branch out and do something on their own and are inconsistent. They're going to be like people who are finding their stride. They're going to be people who are finding their artistic vision, and what they make is not going to look like everybody else's shit. It's going to look unique. It's going to look valuable in its uniqueness and limited in its quantity, which increases demand, sort of thing. The crust on a steak should be inconsistent, just like if you have fried chicken that has just a uniform crust all the way around it with no like crispy crags or anything like that. It doesn't taste good. It tastes like a pancake around a piece of chicken. You need something that is flaky and crispy and inconsistent to provide the best textural component to this thing that you're trying to elevate, that you're giving the respect to the animal that died for this in order to provide it with the respect that it deserves when delivering it to the consumer. That's why restaurants exist in the fucking first place. Continue, please.
And almost supercharge my reaction. The flaky salt has limited the contact with
it's
the pan,
lost
and
in the texture now. Doesn't matter.
Of that beautiful Maillard crust. Perfect crust every single time.
A lot of people have the misconception that
That's
to
not a
zest
good
a
thing.
lemon and you just go for it like that. The issue with zesting a lemon like this
is good advice.
And bitterness. You
That's
see,
good advice.
Has
Yep.
been exposed, and that's where the bitterness of the lemon peel actually comes from. A more ideal way, you zest from top to bottom.
Okay, I mean, it honestly feels like they're overdoing it a little bit. Like, you see the pith when you zest a lemon. Like, you want to get everything that's just on the outside of the pith, but if it has any white in it, you've gone too far. That's really all that it is. You're not going to come up with something that looks just like a lemon that was just picked like that one does. Zesting a lemon does something to it. It doesn't look like it's completely untouched. That being said, I think everybody knows that one. I think everybody knows that that's a thing. I don't think that anybody thinks that they want the whole rind in their thing for zest. Like, I think that's been around as long as Julia Child has. So decades and decades and decades, and it was probably a spy during World War II. Strangled a few Nazis.
For seven, we're frying upwards of 50 to 100 eggs a day. What's the hack? We don't fry our eggs, we bake them.
That's not a lot of eggs. That's not a lot of eggs at all. Like, for your breakfast service, I think Denny's goes through like cases and cases of eggs. Cases, I believe, have about 128 eggs in them if we're going by dozens. And that's a lot of eggs. And you go through like 5 or 6 cases a day for like Denny's. So like breakfast places, they're going through like hundreds and hundreds of eggs in a given breakfast period. So it's not a lot of eggs. Whatever. It's fine. It's just not a lot. I wouldn't say that's a lot. I would never claim that that's a lot. It's fine. Just go ahead.
Into a tray, add a little bit of oil, and then crack your eggs directly into the trays. For perfect fried eggs, 2.5 minutes at 160 with a little. At home, you can use a small pan of water. Look at those egg yolks. Season them up, touch a Malden. Absolutely perfectly fried eggs, really consistent every time.
If you have a professional kitchen and a professional oven that is that dialed in, then yeah, you can totally bake your eggs. But just put an egg in a goddamn muffin pan and try to put it in the oven and bake it at the temperature and the time that he suggested, and you're gonna be disappointed. It's not the same. That stuff is like maintained professionally, like on a monthly basis, probably, if he's any kind of chef or restaurant owner, and you can't substitute for professional equipment. That's very hard to accomplish. I think you're gonna be much better off if you just don't try.
Peeled tomato skins, traditionally you would mark an X on the bottom. We're going to take the tomato
Concassé.
and pop it into the boiling water, and what we're looking for is the skin to just slowly start to release, blanch it into that
Easiest
hot water,
method to
and
do it.
now it makes it really easy for
If you don't
us to
mind
just
blanching your
peel
tomatoes.
this. However, what this does do is slightly cook the tomato
Right.
on the outside.
Yep.
It becomes mushy. It's also very time consuming, but now
It doesn't
I'm going to
become
show you
mushy.
a really cool hack that takes seconds.
Okay, I mean, before you start the hack, it's been this way for like 800 years at this point that we've been doing tomato concassé, and it hasn't single-handedly sunk every restaurant that they've participated in that practice simply because the tomatoes were mushy. They don't get mushy. They just, you lose a little bit of the texture from the outer side of the tomato, but it's honestly the best way to peel a tomato. Personally, I don't give a fuck if tomatoes are peeled. I think the standard that we peel a tomato before we eat it is asinine, and you should save yourself the entire process of trying to skin said fucking tomato. Also, this is going to incorporate way too many resources. Why is there a torch there? It's already bad. I don't know why you have a torch in your hand.
You don't have to do the cut. You're going to just straight blowtorch the skin.
No.
The cross mark on it. This
That's
one
not,
is still
no
completely-
difference.
This one is perfect. It's still cold. There's no cross marks on it. Ready to concass.
Nothing.
I mean, okay, but I don't think that you're gonna like the flavor of like charred tomato that comes with it. My piece of advice, instead of giving you a hack to let you continue peeling your tomatoes, just stop peeling your tomatoes. Just eat the skin. Fuck's sake. Like it's not that big a deal. There's very few preparations or dishes where you would need peeled tomatoes, so just don't sweat it. Don't use it, you know? Just use tomato skin and everything.
Think more annoying than picking up a tin foil and it looks like this. Can't get a bloody clean sheet. The way to fix this, get a ball of tin foil. You're going to hold the tin foil and just very lightly just brush like so. And what we'll do is get rid of all the other layers so that all of your tin foil gets down to the same level.
What? How does your tinfoil get that bad? Like, I don't have a kitchen full of children who don't know how to use tinfoil containers. Like, how are you in such a hurry that the tinfoil roll has become like how plastic rolls get sometimes? How does that happen? You've got to be completely complacent in your kitchen for that to even be a problem that you're addressing. Train people better. Holy fuck.
Is every chef's worst job, but this makes it marginally easier. Take off the big bulbs, put them into a container, run a hot tap,
Oh my
and leave
God.
this to soak for at least 25 minutes. After
No.
5 minutes, the garlic will be way easier to peel.
And you're still peeling it the hard way. No. God damn. You take any garlic clove and you just press the root end like on whatever surface it is that you're working on, and if you're in the forest, you just pop it off with your finger, and that creates enough of a break in between the garlic and the skin. You just peel the skin off. It takes maybe like 2 or 3 seconds per clove, and I would recommend that you do that individually so that you're not sitting there smashing individual cloves or knocking them around in a glass or metal bowl like you see on TV, or doing this, which only increases the time that it takes for this task to get done. All you gotta do is get the garlic out of the goddamn skin. It does not take an entire preparation method for this, so no, bad hack. No.
All this rubbish about a bowl and beating the shit out of it, this is the best way.
No, neither are good ways.
In less than 10 minutes.
Most people
No, it
know
doesn't.
the hack where you peel.
It doesn't take 10 minutes because you have to use hot water. You have to fill a container. You have to separate. And he says take the big bulbs or big cloves from the outer side of the bulb. What are you doing to peel the little ones? Are you saving them for later? Are you using them for a different purpose? Again, we're just throwing efficiency out the window here.
After just a couple of minutes on full power, the cucumbers already started to go a little bit more translucent. It started to take on a bit of the yellow hue, and it totally tastes like a pickle.
So you can't really hack pickles. They're either pickles or they're not. You actually go through an entire process that happens when you're making them. That's what they're making is called a quick pickle. A quick pickle is not a real pickle. It's very easily made. It's just pouring hot liquid over something that you've sliced very thinly that you want to taste like a pickle. It's not how you pickle things. And I would say that if you have the time and energy, you need to just do pickles the right way. And I would encourage a brined method rather than an actual like canned preservation method. A fermented pickle is worlds different than a cultured pickle or a pickle that's been hot packed or anything like that. You really just want to pack it in salt, leave it for a few days, turn it every once in a while, and wait till it gets nice and fermented. This is not bad, it's just not really a pickle, and I wouldn't be using a quick pickle as a hack to create a substitute for something that you should be doing in a fully method type way. It's a hack for a hack, essentially, because quick pickle is a hack in the first place.
Hot water, warm knife to touch. Once we slice the tart, the knife doesn't stick. We clean it on the cloth. For the next one, we just get a really nice clean slice.
I'm gonna move on to the next one because I don't want this video to be an hour long. But the idea that you get it either the knife hot or wet in order to slough off any cake crumbs and icing is a really good idea. That is actually one of the oldest hacks to keeping your knife clean in between cuts that I have seen since from the days that I was in cooking school. My Swiss garde manger chef had us using the big cheese knife, and we would have it like we would have one team member there who would have a blowtorch who would just be going back and forth over the knife as we like raked it across, as me and another person would rake it across towels in preparation for the next slice. We would then do the next slice. They would come by with the blowtorch. We would wipe it on towels, etc., etc., so on, until we made 5,000, each perfect little squares of like meringue or gel or whatever it is that we were trying to cut. Good times. So we're gonna move on to the next video. This one was going on way too long. I think there are probably plenty more hacks that I have to disagree with, but I would like to just kind of end this video on a good note and move on to the next one. I don't want to just keep criticizing. I want to see if there's some advice that's good, Is it rage bait? Gonna say no. I think these are real hacks that they believe truly work in a kitchen, and that these are all chefs who are doing this. I truly believe that because it's clear they're working in these clips. And I don't think it's AI. I don't think anything like this. Speaking of AI, let's take a look at the next video. To rate this just real quick, I would say let's go for 6 out of 10. I think most of it is well-intentioned. I think most of it is well-informed, but it just happens to be bad advice that's been perpetuated over the years. It's all good. I'm sure they're great at their jobs, and I'm sure they make delicious food. So again, let's leave it on a high note and let's continue on. So they do divulge in the information of the video that it is AI generated. So that's not what I think could be the rage bait, but let's see. I don't know if it's rage bait. I haven't looked at the whole channel, but just listen to this. Just listen to this.
Tomato sauce too acidic? Don't use sugar.
Okay.
Use a pinch of baking soda.
Oh.
Sugar, acid. Baking soda neutralizes. Save and share with a pasta lover.
So baking soda creates a chemical reaction, and what it can do to pasta, unfortunately, is completely turn it to mush. If you add, and I would say just try this once. Take a little bit of pasta, like a little handful of like some pasta, and throw baking soda into the boiling water and let it cook or pull it off or whatever, and even just a minute with baking soda in, you'll notice that your pasta tastes like overcooked beans, or it's going to taste overcooked in general. It's mushy, it doesn't have any body anymore, and you will never reach al dente. If you have an acidic tomato sauce, an AI would not know that you are not looking to affect anything else in the dish. It would simply look to solve this problem, and chemically, it's correct that baking soda will just dissipate the acid if we're talking acids and bases and not trying to balance them, but sugar would help balance them. So it's bad advice on its face, but I don't think that it's outwardly rage bait. But I want you to see, in addition to what it looked like with like the weird sprinkles of salt, there wasn't too much of an AI-ness to this, but just take a look at some of his other videos. So here's what everyone who's doing the hack, what hack, I don't know, it has been missing. That's what his intro is.
Doing the hack is missing. This is the
Okay.
in the version is doing.
Nobody in the viral version of a hack that he hasn't named, a thing that he hasn't established, in the description you can see that he's referring to the Dr. Pepper brat hack. I don't know that that's a thing. So yeah, on further inspection, I looked it up. I didn't see that there was a Dr. Pepper brat hack. So I think that this is potentially meant to elicit some emotional reaction that makes people think, what's the Dr. Pepper brat hack? I'm guessing is probably the reason why they're being so nebulous and burying the lead.
First, 2 to 3 minutes first. You want that deep.
It's per side AI, you damn clanker. And him being so low to this pan is to me insane, because he's now inside of the cooktop. These are usually doubles here, and the pan is now way too large. It's about 4 times the size of this guy's head. You could fit his entire upper torso in here.
A professional traditional kitchen.
He was just kind of hanging out in between the burners, part of the fixture itself. Pretty interesting. I've never seen anything like that in real life. I don't think that's physically possible. And as you can see, AI just does not know what food is supposed to look like, especially food that's like minced finely. It just all looks like weirdly uniform, but also just like unnatural. You'll see more artifacts as it goes on.
Watch it reduce and thicken.
No, no!
Caramelized onions. Low heat.
I wouldn't reduce Dr. Pepper all the way down to a syrup consistency because it's going to be too cloyingly sweet on whatever you're putting it on. Typically, and I wouldn't just, you want to kind of make sort of what he's describing because he's describing like a glaze that you're going to put on something. But if it's like on a flat top or if it's on a grill or if it's, which is funny because these look grilled. What you actually want to do is you want to reduce the amount of solids that are going to be in that glaze because they're going to burn. You want to just kind of make like light sauce with a little bit of Dr. Pepper in it. So what you're tasting when you have a Dr. Pepper in a barbecue sauce or Coca-Cola in barbecue sauce or something like that, you're tasting a complex mixture of sarsaparilla. There's another root. Oh, what is it? It's like one of the main ingredients. I can't remember, but if you remember, leave it in the comments. There's a couple of chief ingredients in Coca-Cola and in Dr. Pepper that you can pick out when you're tasting something like this. And those are the forward flavors. That's what they're trying to incorporate with a little bit of water and a little bit of sugar. You can reverse engineer this and you can pick a mixture of herbs and spices and things like that that will help you achieve that same kind of flavor profile, but it's just a lot easier to add Dr. Pepper or add Coca-Cola. What I would say is limit that because those are like processed and manufactured and like over processed and over manufactured. They're going to be like sweet and like not very good for you, and concentrating that concentrates that. And so you're going to get like this sort of machine taste. You're going to get this sort of like artificial flavors, and it's not going to be clean. It's not going to be complex, and you want complexity in something like a sauce. So don't ruin it by adding soda to it. So now that we've seen a couple of this guy's TikToks, I think it's safe to say that it's not outwardly rage bait, but I think that AI chefs just don't really know how to cook. The AI recipes that I see sometimes from ChatGPT, like they try to substitute weird things, and like we saw in the vanilla chicken episode last time, it was mixing things together that on paper should make sense according to chemical reactions, according to how we as humans perceive tastes and flavors. It should make sense, especially a lot of the comments that I got on the video were about chicken and waffles. It makes sense in that, but there's so little sweet flavor, and it's not vanilla inside of the combination of chicken and waffles that it's a different expectation that you have when it hits your brain. It's more sweet forward, it's more dessert forward, it's more breakfast forward than it is chicken forward, and chicken provides a salty complement to that. It's way different. It's just not the same thing. We can move on. And let's say 0 out of 10 for AI slop. And is it rage bait? Probably not. Now the next one, the caption right away says, "My Italian grandmother taught me this." I'm gonna go ahead and say no. No, she didn't, because almost every single time when we see TikToks like this, it's not something that you were taught by a chef. It's not something that a Mexican grandmother taught you. It's not something that an Italian grandmother taught you. It's not something that anybody taught you. You just want to make food look bad. So I'm already gonna say maybe it's rage bait to begin with, but let's let him cook, especially the fact that there's a hair already in the picture. It's near the food, it's not in the food, but let's let her cook. So already right off the bat, steeping pasta is not really how you get the best quality. It will par cook pasta. It will maybe allow it to swell with some of that water, but you really need a vigorous rolling boil in order to get the best quality al dente pasta. Can you get cooked pasta by allowing it to sit in hot water? Of course, but it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be sticky. It's gonna be chewy. It's not gonna come out the right consistency. And if you screw up pasta at the very first step, the whole dish is ruined. So you gotta make pasta correctly. It's like baseball players, right? So if you're familiar with how Hank Aaron held his bat all wrong, it's because that's how he developed his play style over the years that he'd been training. You develop fundamentals, you develop a foundation of skill, a core knowledge, and then you branch out from there. Then you can start riffing. Your Italian grandmother did not teach you to put low sodium soy sauce into anything, let alone this dish that has pasta, nor chili sauce. I don't think either of those are an essential part of the average everyday Italian household whenever your grandmother was alive, presumably decades ago. First of all, and also don't use metal instruments in pans that are intended to seem like they're fancy or nonstick or whatever. It's not necessarily that your metal utensils are going to ruin, say, a cast iron pan, but what they can do is they can screw up the patina. And you don't want them to screw up that patina because that patina took a long time to get, especially if you're using like your grandmother's pans or using like your grandfather's pans or whatever. Whoever owned the pans in your family who handed them down to you, you're going to screw up the patina if you start scraping it with the metal utensils. You want to use wood in cast iron, you want to use plastic or wood in nonstick, that kind of stuff. Just go with the material's friendliest complementary material and your pans will last a lot longer. Also, I know how to make the world's easiest mac and cheese, and it really just starts with flour and butter when you're making it like a roux, and you use I guess kind of some of these methods, but you want to actually cook the pasta. You don't want to just steep it in hot water. I get what's happening here. They're hoping to cook it the rest of the way in the milk and the cheese so it absorbs some of that flavor. It gets all nice and gooey and delicious. But the texture is what's important for me when it comes to a delicious mac and cheese. I need a little bit of toothsomeness. I need a little bit of bite to the pasta, or else I'm just eating mouthfuls of cheesy flavored sludge, which is not on my to-do list. I want a delicious pasta. I want, the pasta should always be the main star of a pasta dish. I know that sometimes, the condiments, as they are called, that go on top of pasta are sometimes the most delicious part, but that's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be complimenting the amazing effort that went into making these delicious pasta shapes and the regions in Italy that they come from. That's what it's all about. And so you want to honor that. So adding the egg to a sauce that's being heated in order to thicken it is called a liaison, and you want to add it towards the end of cooking. I'm hoping that they just kind of cut this and that it's already like cooked, but if you're going to bring this to a boil, you almost never want to boil something with a liaison in it, because unless you're planning on straining it later, you're going to get scrambled eggs. Another thing with this is the cheese. I actually kind of like getting shredded cheese, and I know that's kind of a big no-no in the chef world because shredded cheese is tossed in something called fibrose or fibrillose or something like that, or cellulose. And I think cellulose is like plastic based. If it's plastic, they don't use it. If it's that wood pulp stuff, they use it. So correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But they coat it with a powder. And this powder sometimes contains some portion of sodium citrate, which actually helps your sauce bind and thicken and stay consistent. And so what I do is I will typically scald milk, which if you've never heard of scalding milk, it's bringing it up to about 190 degrees Fahrenheit and then turning off the heat. And I will scald milk. I will then put the roux that I've already made in it, and then I will put the cheese with fibrose or cellulose or whatever. I will then put that inside, and I will then take a hand blender, a stick blender, and go in there and make it nice and smooth. And then I will add my perfectly cooked pasta to that, and I will cook it no further. It will then go into pans to be heated up later. This is the best mac and cheese. It's the best mac and cheese I've ever had, and it is the best mac and cheese you will ever have if you follow my recipe. But getting a prepared nacho cheese sauce is gonna be fine, but it's not gonna be the best type quality that you could get. And if I'm making something for myself, if I'm making something for my loved ones, if I'm making something for anyone that I'm trying to impress with my knowledge of cooking, then I'm gonna want to make it the best possible. I'm gonna want to make it with the best ingredients. I'm gonna want to make it with the best procedures, and that just means whatever I can afford. I'm not gonna go out and buy some freaking Emmentaler from France that has 3 stamps from Switzerland that's won a bunch of shows and shit like that. I'm just gonna get the best quality stuff that I can afford. But it's definitely not gonna be pre-prepared cheese sauce, I can tell you that much. No, we're still bringing it to a boil, and we are still adding more cheese to it. You don't need to be doing this. Add 1 cheese to something. That's all it needs. You can add multiple, but why? You're only ever going to taste one thing: cheese. So in a cheese sauce, you can use one of a few different methods. You can either use a cornstarch slurry, you can use a roux like I do, or you can use a liaison like this person did. None of them are bad, and there's no one that's necessarily worse than any of the others, but I just prefer myself to be able to taste every different component of a dish. And using this much cheese, using a liaison with chili sauce and soy sauce are not going to... Chili sauce and soy sauce are things that are meant to be flavor enhancers that are used when you cannot otherwise create a tasty, nuanced dish. Because with things that are only a couple of ingredients, like mac and cheese, you're gonna kind of run into into a situation where it's going to be kind of one note. It's going to be kind of bland. It's going to be kind of unimaginative unless you do things the right way. Textural differences between like the amount of times that you spend cooking things, and the toothsome of them, like how aerated the dish is, will affect how it tastes. I know that sounds weird, but that's true. I swear to God, the way you cut steak affects how it's going to taste. These are things that have been proven time and time again. And so using the wrong ingredients, cutting corners, using different methods that are not going to result in the best quality thing will not. They're the weak parts of the food chain. They're the weak parts of the recipe chain. They will be the death of the dish. And so you want to start out on the strongest foot. You want to start out with the strongest methods, and you want to start out with the best ingredients, and then you want to move into nuanced territory from there. So for that video that we just watched, I would say that that's probably about a 6 out of 10. It looks like it's going to be okay. It's going to be pretty tasty, but it's just not going to be the top quality that I'm looking for when it comes to recipe hacks or things like that. I want the best foot forward. I want you to give me your best stuff, and so that way I can have what's resulting in the most flavorful and amazing dish possible. And gosh darn it, I think then it's going to be super delicious and everyone's going to enjoy it, all right? That being said, I think that's it for the videos. Was it rage bait? Definitely not. I don't think that it was intended to rage bait anyone except for the phrase, "This is what my grandmother taught me." Your grandmother didn't teach you that. Your grandmother's not from Italy if she did, so stop saying she's your Italian grandmother. She could be your Korean grandmother with the chili sauce, or your Japanese grandmother with the soy sauce. Either way, you're not fooling anyone here, all right? Was it rage bait? I think that part of it was, all right? But after that one, I'm going to go ahead and say that's it for this edition of Is It Rage Bait on the Clips channel. And if you've watched this far, thank you so much. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Don't stress about the little stuff, all right? Go hug a loved one, drink some water, and remember that even though things can get kind of petty sometimes, even though shit can get kind of dark and shit can seem a little bleak or whatever, like nature kind of says that the sun has to rise again tomorrow. So whatever happens, there's going to be another day. Are you going to be ready for it, or are you going to be wallowing in your own sadness? Let's take one step forward together and prop each other up on this journey of life, and we'll both be better off for it. All right? Until the next time, I've been Goose. Bye-bye.